O God, whose Son Jesus is the good shepherd of your people, grant that when we hear his voice, we may know him who calls us each by name and follow where he leads. You may be seated. I feel like I was a sheep right now. I'm glad that there's a way to follow somebody to know where to go, right? And today I don't know if you knew that the fourth Sunday of Easter is always known as the Good Sunday of what? The Good Shepherd, right? Every fourth Sunday, you just remember next year when you experience it again, that the fourth Sunday of Easter is Good Shepherd Sunday. And I'm also excited because I saw it in the prayer in the Good Shepherd, so I was wondering if I was going to find it as well in the passage for today from the Gospel, but it's not. It's until the next verse 11, when you see Good Shepherd, I was like, oh man. But it describes what a Good Shepherd is in this passage right here. And it describes it also as a description of the relationship that God has with God's people. We see it in the Psalm for today, right? 23, the Lord is my shepherd. So there's this idea and this image of God's relationship with his people as what? As that of a shepherd, right? And I don't know how many, has anybody been a shepherd here? Anybody? Or shepherdess? Anybody? One person, yeah, that's right. My dad, yeah. He has told me some stories of painful experiences with the sheep. Trying to get them, and find them and different things like that. But it's very interesting, just like one thing that I realized about voices and noises is that the people that you mostly fear and the people that you mostly love, their voice and even the way they walk. I know when my dad was coming home because I knew the pattern of his steps. I don't know if anybody has noticed that about yourself and knowing who's coming just because of the beats, and the way that the person walks. And in the same way, these sheep, they know the voice of this shepherd, right? They know the voice of the shepherd, and the shepherd knows them by name. When I was in the army in the 90s, and I was sent, we were deployed to the first Gulf War. And I remember when we crossed the border between Saudi Arabia and Iraq, I was in artillery, so we were in these howitzers. They looked like tanks with a big tanks. And so just driving through the sand and in the middle of the night, and we saw this tent. And inside the tent, there were sheep. And inside the tent was also the shepherd. So they slept in the same place. They knew each other very well. They knew each other's voice. They knew who the shepherd was. And in the same way we see here that they know, right? He goes in, calls them by name. They don't go anywhere but where the shepherd leads them. And I'm like also the image of the gate. As he says, what did Jesus say? I am the gate, right? It's almost like this right here. Like you had all these sheep right here, and they're protected, right, by these other areas, and then the shepherd would sleep like this. So that he would know if it's a sheep coming out or or whatever's out there trying to come in. Is there? I don't know if parents here ever done that with your kids. Huh? Especially when they become teenagers. I don't know if anybody has done that. You become that gate. But what really called my attention was the last part of the gospel reading for today. It says, whoever enters by me will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. Whoever enters by me will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture. When you're able to come in and out freely, how is that feeling? You feel safe, right? So then there's no worry about anything. You trust, right? That's the environment that God brings. if we experience a different situation, especially created by us, it's not of God. I want to be free. I want to go in and out. I think that's what God is offering us today. One of my favorite verses from Psalm 23 is, if you can go on page 6, is verse 4. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. I don't know about you, but just the image of a rod and a staff, they bring fear to me. Right? When you think about a rod and a staff, what do you think? Somebody's going to hit you, right? Somebody's going to hit you in your head. And sometimes we have this image of God as being that way. Right? Almost like God is just waiting for you to mess up. And so you're like always like, oh my gosh, like what do I do? What decision do I make? How do I do this? Do I need to come? I need to come to church more often. I need to be reading the whole Bible. I need to be in the Bible study. All of these different things just so you could protect yourself from being hit on the head by that staff or that rod, right? So how can a rod and a staff be comfort? It's in a way that is used, right? The rod and the staff are used to what? To guide and to protect, right? So you can just imagine, the rod to do what? If there was a wolf coming, what would they do with it? And the staff, if someone have seen, even the bishops, they have this staff that has like little loop. Someone like to help you when you're like going to pick you up. Is our experience or our idea of God similar to that? Is it? Can you remember one instance when that happens? These sheep, they follow the shepherd. The shepherd's in the back with the rod and going like this, go over here, go over there. But they're following the shepherd who walks in front of them. That's a very different relationship than sometimes we as church create. At least for me, because I like to control. I like things to go the way that I want them to go. And as a priest, I think it became even worse, because I want to, the liturgy needs to be this way. This thing needs to be this way. The sign needs to be this way. And then we expect everybody else that comes in to also be the way that I want them to be. Anybody like that? But if we're following Jesus and we're following this God, what kind of environments do we need to create? One where people feel what? Safe. They can go in and out. You know how our lives are, right? To be able to come in and out and feel always welcome, always loved, always safe. And as the end of Psalm 23 says, surely your goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. The goodness of God, the mercy of God. I know that your congregation, this congregation right here, which I'm very grateful for because it not only welcomes me, but it has welcomed my family, my dad and my mom, all these years. Thank you for the space that you have created for my dad here. It's going through transition, right? So transitions may bring a lot of anxiety, but it also brings hopes, right? But you see, sometimes the anxiety gets a little bit bigger, and the hopes start like going to the side, right? God never promises that things will be easy. And Psalm 23 verse 4 always reminds me that. Because it says, though I walk, right? It's not saying that you will never walk, or maybe if you walk, but though I walk. That means it's going to happen. You're going to go through situations that may seem like the valley of the shadow of death. But in the middle of that, the confusion, the different things that may come your way, you can have comfort in that God who is walking in front of you, beside you, behind you, loving you. Some years ago, when my kids were young, here in Houston, I can remember what year it must have been. I think my youngest daughter was maybe about 6 years old. And we had spring break, and we went to the place that we always went, Astroworld. You guys remember Astroworld? And that particular spring break, they had a very special thing there at Astroworld. It was a double ride day. Right? So that means what it means is like you got in line, and you get in the roller coaster or whatever ride. And at the end of your ride, you had the choice to do it again without having to wait in line. So that's a pretty good deal, right? How many of you guys would have taken that deal? Right? So the lines were moving slow, but in the anticipation was building as we were there. My kids were getting excited. We were in the line of this special roller coaster that was indoors. So it was outside and it went into this cave, and it was dark, and we just go everywhere, and they were excited. I was trying to be excited with them, but I was getting, as the line was getting closer, I was sweating, my hands were sweating, and we got on, my two older kids got in the front seat, and my youngest daughter and myself sat on the second seat, and there we went. And it seemed like the longest roller coaster on the earth, because once it went into the cave-looking thing, and it was dark. I didn't know where I was at. We were upside down, sideways, and I felt like my stomach was coming out of my mouth, and I was just screaming inside because I didn't want to scare my kids. So I was screaming. And finally, we saw the end of the tunnel. We saw the light. I said, "Oh, thank you, Jesus!" And we got out and we stopped, and then I was about to get off, and they told me, "Do you guys want to go again?" And my two older kids were going, "Yes, we want to go again." And I was thinking like, oh my gosh. Well, what can I do? And then I felt my daughter, the youngest daughter, pull my shirt, and she said, "I don't want to go again, Dad. I don't want to." Okay, but because of you, I'm going to get off too. And so we got off that roller coaster. And my kids went, excited with their arms in the air to experience this roller coaster once again. And as I was walking to the waiting area, my daughter told me, "Dad, when I was in there, I felt like I was going to die. But I knew if I held on to you very hard, that I'll be okay." That is my message to you today. I don't know how long this roller coaster may be. And you may feel like at points your stomach is coming out of your mouth. But that good shepherd is walking with you. Amen? Amen.